Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. This video is an album review on The's 1989 album called Mind Bomb. This was the band's third album. This is the second time they've been on the channel. I did review their second album called Infected, and I gave it a 70 out of 100, which is a very good score on my system. This album I think, of their first four albums going into from Soul Mining. Actually, also the Matt Johnson solo album. It was on 4AD for early in his career. If you take account to their first five albums, Matt Johnson, Soul Mining, Infected, Mind Bomb, and then Dusk, Mind Bomb was the album that I knew least about. I probably heard it. I don't own it. It's the only one I don't own of the first five Matt Johnson releases, full length releases. It's the only one I don't have. I do need to get a copy. I probably heard it once somewhere along the line, but I've certainly heard a few songs on it a lot. I have a couple greatest hits of the as well, and the Bean Generation and Armageddon Days are here, and Gravitate to Me, and even Violence of Truth. I've all heard before, but there's a couple on here that it's been a while since I heard, and then it was nice to kind of come back and kind of rate this album, and I was happy to say that I do like this album a little bit better than Infected overall. So I do have some good news that this is a solid album, and an album that I really liked, and um, I think very highly of Matt Johnson, and um, I feel like they're kind of fine tuning their sound on this album. I mean, I think the difference might be between this. The second album is a little bit more raw. Infected is a little bit more raw. Okay, an extension of Soul Mining, in some ways, but also very different. As far as the lyrics and some of the the things he talks about, and the songwriting is kind of an extension of Soul Mining, and that's kind of run a theme throughout Matt Johnson's career, in my opinion. But the music is different from Soul Mining, I think, to Infected. But I feel like Mind Bomb is a little bit, I guess, maybe more of a. Actually, what I was going to say was the addition of Johnny Marr being the difference. The difference of the two albums. I mean, I can't think of any songs that really. I mean, I do have some higher. I feel like this album has some higher quality songs, like has better peaks, but it's really Johnny Marr probably gives it a couple extra points in this being better. Not to tell you the score early, but who cares? You know, I gave this album a 73 out of 100, so it's only 3 points higher than Infected. But I'd probably say, just because I gave Beat Generation a four stars, and I don't think that any track in Infected I gave 4 stars. So it could be just a little bit of that, and Johnny Marr's guitars that really kind of make the difference between this album and the last album. This I think the last album also had 8 songs. This album has 8 songs, so it's pretty consistent in the length and the amount of songs as well. So I can really only see that being the difference of the two albums. But Johnny Marr is a big difference. I mean, he makes some fantastic guitar tracks in here. Um, Matt Johnson's songwriting is so unique, and he can make some pretty cynical tracks awfully catchy. He has some interesting viewpoints, and it's it's funny because you're like, like, why does he care so much about what America, uh in some respects, I'm like, why does he care so much about what Americans do or are, right? It seems like a lot of his lyrics are geared towards American or Western the Western world, whether it be religious or how we act, or there's so many tracks you can point to where he's talking about Americans specifically and our old school kind of religious, Bible Belt uh, type people, and he's even speaking to like hillbillies on other tracks. It feels like, and I mean, just be too gun toting and too about war and stuff like that. And it's funny because like you would think like some of that would like annoy some American people or get on people's nerves, but I'm so used to that from being on like music forums and stuff like that. And I mean, whenever you tell somebody from England that you're from America, like 20 years ago, 25 years ago when I first got online, they would think that I was overweight, eating hamburgers too much, that I was a gun-toting Republican, and I don't know how to pronounce and speak very good English, which is probably true. Um, just a Christian kind of old school kind of knucklehead and doesn't really think progressively, or it's just kind of like these stereotypes that UK people have about Americans. Like he writes a lot about that in here, and you'd think that would kind of like upset some people, or maybe even just upset me, or maybe I get bored of it. But Matt Johnson's so creative, and I can sort of tune out his voice a little bit and sort of not even really tune out his voice really, but again, he can make something. His lyrics are kind of pretty cynical, but you can kind of like tune him out because he's so catchy, and then the songs are so catchy that I'm just like, it doesn't really bother me. And I know he's not talking to me specifically, so it's not a big deal, anyways. And I don't take stereotypes, uh, you know, personal, anyways. It's just, but I think I find it interesting that he talks a lot about Americans. You're like, why do you care so much about Americans? You know, but um, he just maybe he thinks that our way of life is kind of the wrong way of life. I don't know. But Johnny Marr is such a big addition to this album. He kind of makes the album really better than their last, and I wrote that here. Um, Obviously, Matt's vocals, the way he talks, and this, it's very soothing, and sometimes it's very strong, and he does a lot of like vocal effects on there where there may be different microphones, or sometimes he sings through like a an old school microphone that you would talk to like uh, on the radio with, or maybe intercom at some like old school in the 60s or 70s, like or maybe it's some effects he puts on his voice, and he doesn't do it through the whole song. He'll speak, during the verses, and then he comes on to the chorus and does something different with his voice. It's always kind of creative, and it's always unique, and in a way, it almost kind of masks his voice and saying what he wants to say, and maybe that's kind of the ironic part about what he talks about, and then what he actually in whose voice he says it in, because a lot of times it's not his natural voice. He's not like singing about the America's problems and America's stereotypes. He's almost talking in third person, and more like a generality, or a historical perspective. He kind of gives that impression off that he's obviously really against war, and but he has that kind of like military kind of like, but then it's also sarcastic. But it's also, a lot of it is the vocal effects that he uses in the different microphones, and it's really unique. Um, I talked to him a little bit about his lyrics being cynical, and it's very real and very tangible. But he sings about like simple life really well, like basic things, like um, like there's a song on soul mining. I think it might be Perfect, where he talks about an old man like scratching his skin and stuff like that, and the way he says it. It seems like there's quite a few moments on here where he talks about, he's pretty honest about like sex, and there's I mean, there's lyrics of Sinead O'Connor's that talks about, she sings about him being inside her, and you're just like, well, that's kind of, I didn't expect that, and I don't know if he means that physically, but a lot of the lyrics, like, when, especially when like Matt Johnson talks about sex, there was a song like this in Infected too, when he was talking about. It's one of the videos that in that video I said go check out this video for that song, and it was for that song where he's on the bed with the girl, and basically it's just they're having sex, but he's still like, and that's really all that he's there for. But he kind of met this girl, and they're at different stages in their life, and you can kind of tell, but there's something about her that he really likes, and I think it could be just sex, it's um and it's just that the video is really interesting because it's just kind of about it just kind of like tells you about, or I mean, it's his way of saying like there's a difference between love, because he talks about love a lot in his lyrics, and then when he talks about sex, it's very basic because in a way it can be. It's just like an act. It's an act you do with another person, but it's like, what I mean. It's just, it doesn't have to be love involved and build all up with it. Like but the way he talks about it and everything about it is just, you're just like, it's so clever and it's so unique, and he just has this kind of way of talking about like simple life, and I just find it creative. I don't even know if what it fully means, like why he writes that, or sometimes I don't get what the overall thought of the song is, because sometimes I don't read the lyrics or pay attention too much. But if I do talk about somebody's lyrics, then because a lot of times if you see my reviews, I don't talk about people's lyrics, but if I do talk about their lyrics, then they're definitely hitting, they're definitely kind of perking my curiosity, to sort of, what are you meaning? What are you talking about there? But then I don't go through with it, and then, go look up the lyrics and be like, oh, okay, oh, he means this. Like, I don't do that, but sometimes in songs, more so with the and Matt Johnson than a lot of other bands, I kind of do that with. I kind of like, oh, that's kind of interesting, and then I kind of get where he's going, but then I don't really like, because a lot of times I just sing along to the music, and the music is so creative, and that a lot of times I just kind of like don't think about the lyrics, but then if you do, you do find some interesting things about him. One cool thing about the drums that I didn't notice was this is David Palmer from who was in ABC on their first, I think, two albums, or maybe it was just their first album. But he was ABC's original drummer, and then he was also on Clock DVA, which I didn't know he was in this album, so I find that kind of interesting. And I think he does a good job on the drumming here, and I think the drums are a little bit better than Infected. I can't remember who does the drums on that, but I think I like the drums a little bit better in this album as well. Obviously, I talked about the guitars, Johnny Marr. I mean, he has such a perfect mix between his riffs and then tying everything together. Like, he just does both so well. I really like the production on this album too. I think there's also some songs that have some great atmosphere, like "Good Morning Beautiful," "Kingdom of Rain." There's always a good use of instruments. I mean, there's a saxophone on "Good Morning Beautiful." There's some nice horns on "Kings of Rain." Of course, there's some harmonicas on "The Beaten Generation." It's just he always uses like clever sounds, and I think a good mix of sampling and good good sounds, good instruments. He does a really good balance of just a creative songwriter that just doesn't just write a song. Like, he kind of like things to like. To me, it seems like "Love Is Stronger Than Death," for example. If you know that really great song from Dusk, it seems like he wrote that song. He's like, okay, well, I need something different on this song. Okay, let me get some strings and let me do this, and I'll do this, and I'll go full board that way. And then he'll do another song and like think about the lyrics and like, okay, well, I'm gonna put some military samples on here, maybe some gunshots in the background, and and sort of create like a war song here. You know what I mean? It seems like he really puts a lot of thought into the sort of full creation of making the song. It's not like just like put together a song and then just record it. He seems to like really put some attention into all that goes within it, and to make each song on an album have a different angle of what stuff to put into it and what instruments. And I just think I think the world of Matt Johnson as a artistic talent, just in almost every way. You know what I mean? Lyricist, production, voice, energy, creativity. He nails it on so many levels. As far as the 8 tracks, Good Morning Beautiful, 3.5 stars. Armageddon Days Are Here Again, really clever song, 3.5 stars. The Violence of Truth, 2.5 stars. It's actually, no. Kingdom of Rain, this was Sinead O'Connor. Nice keyboards here, really, and I really like Sinead O'Connor's singing here, which I never thought I'd say that because I don't really know too much of her music, but you know, I can understand she's an emotional singer, and I could see her probably having some songs, but I don't, maybe I shouldn't say that because I don't know her songs, but I didn't, I really, I could almost like the way she's singing on here. I almost wouldn't think it was like Sinead O'Connor. It's just she's almost talking a little bit more and singing in a lower tone, and I really like that, and I think she does a good job. And again, nice keyboards here too. Kingdom of Rain, yeah, 3.5 stars. Beaten Generation, excellent song, 4 stars. Such a catchy song. I can't tell you how many times I've just played that song on repeat for 10, 15 times. It's so catchy and so it's a quick song too. Like it's right under 3 minutes, but it's so clever and so catchy, and it has so many up and downs even through just a 3 minute track. I think it's a great song. 4 stars. August and September, 3.5 stars. Really strong song. Gravitate to me, 2.25 stars. It's my least liked. It probably goes on a little bit too long. And then also there's a bass line and a keyboard part that sound like it's from soul mining. Not that that's a bad thing because I love soul mining, but it's kind of like maybe you did this one before, Matt, or maybe this one isn't really like sticking out towards. It sort of sounds like a B side of soul mining. So I was just kind of like, but I think the bigger issue is it just doesn't really go anywhere and it goes on too long and it doesn't really have the impact the stronger songs have on there. Having said that, I still gave it 2.25 stars. I still think it's a good track, just not to the level of most of the other music. And then Beyond Love, uh, it's really close to being even more than 3 stars. It's just really close. It just doesn't quite get there. But again, very good album, very good song. Again, the overall, I got a 73 out of 100. Very good album. Um, but yeah, I think it's a little bit better than Infected. I don't think it'll be better than Dusk, and I know it won't be better than Soul Mining. It'll be close on Matt Johnson's solo album, and then I gotta get their last 3 albums. The one from the late '90s. Well, actually, I gotta get Hanky Panky. That was from '94. I gotta get the '99 one. Whatever the 2002 one, and then the recent one he just came out and toured with, which I did hear 2 of the singles when they came out, and I really did like them. So I'm looking forward to finally getting that album, which just came out in I think August or September. Actually, it's just been like 2 months. But if you don't know, if you like the Dun and you haven't heard their new album, go check it out. From the first 2 songs I heard, the 2 singles, looks like it'll be another really good album. Long time waiting, almost 23 years since the last, um, or maybe it was 25 years. Maybe there's only one album after from in between '94 and 2005. I thought there was two, but anyways, 20 to 25 years. This last album is the first since then, and I'm happy to say the first 2 songs I heard was right in line with the quality of this. Just missing Johnny Marr, I think. Right? I think Johnny Marr's in the new one. It would be good if he was though. But yeah, 73 out of 100 for The's third album called Mind Blown from 1989. Curious, what's your favorite three albums by The? And have you heard the new album? What do you think about it? I'd be curious to know your opinion on their new album so I can look forward to checking it. I'm sure it'll be a good review. I've never heard anybody have any bad things about Just a awesome band. Um, you know, awesome. I mean, is the Matt Johnson at this point? Is it just when I say the band? Is it just Matt Johnson that's awesome because he does everything? It seems like, but looks like he had some help on this album with some percussion, drums, and guitar. But he kind of, if you know Matt Johnson, like I'm sure he susses out everything and plays it before he has other people do it because he's just that meticulous and creative. I'm sure he does most of it himself, and then has other people do it to kind of bring their flavor to his overall sound. But yeah, awesome album. 73 out of 100. Thanks so much.